Welcome to Beyond the Pulpit, exploring the life and ministry of Walnut Creek Church downtown. Walnut Creek Church exists to glorify God by making authentic disciples of Jesus Christ who love and worship Him in all they do. Well, all right, welcome to Beyond the Pulpit. My name is Derek Wadley, and I'm joined by Dan Rude.
Good morning, everyone.
And Luke Cookie.
Hey, y'all. How's it going?
And this last weekend, we were continuing our series through the book of Genesis. We are nearing the end of Genesis. We are very nearly there.
Almost there.
I think we started chapter 1 in 2023. There's a break between there.
Yeah.
But so we're getting there. But this last weekend, Luke, we looked at what seemed to be a story of reconciliation between Joseph and his brothers.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah. Genesis 45, a lot of things happening in Genesis 45,
Yes.
and probably could take a couple weeks to really work through it. And it seems like one of the major themes is that there is like a reconciliation between Joseph and his brothers. Obviously, they've been separated for 22 years at the horrible sin of his brothers, selling him into slavery. And one of the things I got into at the end of kind of application is just the idea is there's someone we need to be reconciled to. And I think when we think about reconciliation, there's kind of like, there's an ideal, which is what was I mostly talked about on Sunday. And the ideal is that there's, in reconciliation, there's two parties and someone has been sinned against, and that's fractured the relationship. And so reconciliation is reuniting, coming back together. And we see that here with Joseph and his brothers. And the ideal reconciliation, you need someone is going to confess of their sin, own to the wrong they've committed, and then the other person is going to forgive that person for the sin. In Joseph's case, forgiving his brothers for the sin they committed. And sometimes we're in both spots, like we've been sinned against and we've sinned, and so we maybe need to do both. But the ideal doesn't always happen. And so
Usually not.
So ideally, this is what happens. But, there are scenarios like what happens when you try to pursue reconciliation with somebody and their confession is like, it's not for the exact thing they did, or there's gonna be times when people don't want to, they're just not going to, they're just going to they're not going to want to reconcile. And so I think, naturally, in our seat, like if we're trying to pursue reconciliation, we can only do so much. And like we can confess where we need to confess or forgive where we need to forgive. And the other person has to choose to do the same. But we were just talking about before we we started the podcast here, like there are definitely situations where, okay, this is the ideal, but the ideal doesn't always play out.
Right. Because of sin, often it doesn't. More often than not.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a when we live in a fallen, broken world, and sin is all over the place, and like you said, we sin against people, and we are sinned against all the time. It can make relationships really tricky, and I've thought about over the years just a few principles about reconciliation and how this works, and One scenario is that you're sinned against, and you're sinned against. But Proverbs says, and 1 Peter says, that it's an honor for a man to overlook an offense. It's to a man's glory.
Yep.
And so there is a sense in which, as followers of Christ, we should be quick to give grace to people, to not take everything so personally. And there are times where we can be so petty.
Yeah. You say something to somebody and it was, maybe not gracious, and you can just hold on to that like it's a big deal.
Yeah, it's like, I don't like people with goatees or something like that. And
I don't like people with beards.
and I meant, I didn't say it quite right.
Did a hard stare at me when he talked about goatees so as not to make eye contact with Luke.
You cannot look Luke in the eye when you insult him. That's a good rule for life. But if you say something like that, and I'm talking about a wild biker or whatever, and it's like, you're sitting there and you're like, Dan says he doesn't like people with goatees, and then you can get all hurt, bent out of shape out of that. It's like, okay, it is a glory for a man to overlook an offense. Now you could say, hey Dan, you're dumb. Some of the greatest people in the world have goatees or whatever.
That's right.
And so you maybe shouldn't say that, but as far as like, it doesn't have to like fracture the relationship just because you sin against someone.
Yeah, that's true.
Just because there's sin in a relationship, it doesn't have to equal a fractured, broken relationship.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be like this life-changing, oh man, I'm waiting for a confession. It's not, it doesn't have to be that. And so I think the older I get, the more I see that truth in Proverbs and in 1 Peter, that it is a glory for a man to overlook an offense.
Totally.
But then there are times where sin can be so hurtful, so damaging, that it does either break a relationship or it injures a relationship. And
damages.
What do you do then? How do you, when someone sins against you, like what do you do then? And it's beyond like, hey, goatees or whatever. It's something that's maybe more painful. Yeah. I like people with goatees, just for the record. I just want to make that clear. But I don't care if you have a goatee or not.
What about mustaches?
Mustaches, yeah.
Even better.
Even better than goatees. But you know what I'm saying? So what do you do?
Right.
What's like the first step? Like someone, maybe it's your spouse or a child or a friend or a parent or a coworker. And it's like you can't shake it. Like you can't overlook it. What's step number one?
Yeah, I think, step number one is just to go to the person and say, hey, what you said or what you did really was hurtful, to me. And, maybe even step one is just to go before the Lord.
I think
that's probably step one is to go before the Lord.
Yeah.
And just express to God how you feel, what's like happened. And I think too, it puts into perspective, like when we're sinned against, that we've ultimately sinned against Christ, and that helps motivate and us to forgive the person who sinned against us.
So go to the Lord first.
Yeah.
And something I've learned, it's kind of interesting. There have been times where I feel like someone will say something or do something that I feel offended by, and I can't really shake it. And I've often found it's because there's some truth in what they say.
That's true too.
And if you jump too quickly to like, you hurt my feelings and now we got to address it, it's almost like you skip the process of like considering what they're saying.
That's right. Yeah.
Even if it's not said well, even if it's like,
well, I think
cutting,
that's sometimes what happens is is the way it's delivered. We're more offended by it than even what sometimes is said.
Exactly.
And so we miss
we just throw everything out.
Yeah.
And we just are offended.
Yep.
And
it's totally true.
So I think just like, actually listening and, going before the Lord. And often I found it's like, if I pray about it for 5 minutes and let a day or two go by, it's like, whatever, you just kind of move past it. Or I learn something from it, or I go thank that person for saying it.
Your pursuit of that person becomes, instead of trying to be like, hey, you wronged me, it's like, actually, thank you.
Yeah. So let's pretend you do step one. You go to the Lord.
Right.
And you're like thinking through it, praying through it.
In real life, don't pretend to do step one, though.
Do step one. Yeah. So it's maybe like, do step one, go to the Lord, pray about it, think about it. Okay, what's the next step then?
I think that as the offended party, oftentimes, like what I'm unaware of the fact that sometimes if I say something that is hurtful or whatever, the way that I said it, regardless of the truth content, I'm just kind of unaware of the hurt. And so when you're the offended party, you got to go to that person. I think that Christ would call us.
You can't shake it.
You can't shake it. You can't sit around and wait for them to just figure it out. Like,
how long should you wait? Are we talking like
like 45 seconds?
45 seconds.
No. Doesn't seem like there's a amount of time.
It doesn't seem. I think it's probably kind of arbitrary to pick an amount of time, but it's like,
make sure you work through it with the Lord.
Work through it with the Lord. I mean, maybe it's a day or two. Maybe sometimes it's like a couple of weeks. You got to really work through it to get your own thoughts put together and sort through some things. But it seems like that the offended party is the one who needs to go to the offender and say, like, hey, we had this conversation and you said this and it really hurt me. And I feel, it's like, you don't want to like let bitterness fester in your heart. You don't want it to become like a cold shoulder thing. You don't want to
become passive aggressive, slander, bitter,
which is what happens naturally.
Yeah. And I think it's good when you go to them just to even like try to establish like the facts of the situation and maybe just try to understand what happens. So if someone says, hey, I really don't like people with goatees, and Duke's really offended by that, like
starting to get offended.
I know.
That's right. This is like,
okay.
also.
So he's prayed about it. He's trying to shake it. He can't shake it. So he comes to me. It's good to say. So like you could start by saying,
Dan, I'm really deeply offended.
I'm mad at you. I've been harboring bitterness. You could just be angry about it. Or you could just say like, hey, I think a couple weeks ago you said you really don't like people with goatees. And I was just wondering, like, what do you mean by that? I'm serious. And because maybe there's a part of the conversation you missed, or maybe I'm having a bad day, or maybe I was being passive aggressive towards you, or maybe I wasn't. And then you give me an opportunity to like respond to you.
Certainly.
You know what I'm saying?
Coming into conflict or addressing conflict and starting by asking questions to make sure everyone's on the same page.
Verifying the facts.
Like you said, verify it. It generally is going to help things go some more smooth.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And it says in Proverbs 15, it says that a gentle tongue breaks the bone. And there's something about, a gentle tongue breaks the bone. A gentle answer turns away wrath. And there's a way of responding in humility after you drain the poison of bitterness from your heart and you go to the person and you just give the person an opportunity to respond. And I've done that many times in my life, and I can't tell you how many times the response, it goes something like this. Yeah, I said that. That's not what I meant. I was just being stupid. I'm sorry.
Or, yeah, I said that, and that was really stupid of me.
Exactly. Sorry. Yeah, and I could say, well, I was thinking more about like biker gang people, with long goatees.
And then I'm like, I don't believe you.
So whatever. Okay, just for the record, I have nothing.
Luke has no intentions of shaving Dan.
Dan's just showing his hand here. It's the biker gang.
Listen, I have nothing against biker gang.
I accept you for who you are, Luke.
I'm shooting from my hip here. Okay, so I like biker gangs. I like goatees. I'm just giving an example. Yeah, okay,
I would not offend the biker gang community if I was you.
Trying to avoid that.
That's right.
So let's pretend that let's pretend that's scenario number one, which is going to be more common. Something in that level is going to be the more common experience within the church. You didn't invite me to this thing. You made this comment, and that hurt my feelings. Whatever it is.
You were short with
me. You were short with me. I felt like you didn't listen to me at all, or whatever, and that bothers me, or whatever. So that's like one type of scenario, and it seems like usually if people are reasonable, you can work through that. And it doesn't have to be like this big
ordeal
process of reconciliation. Okay, but now let's go like
a step further.
Let's this escalate. Let's go. I don't know what this would be like. Grade 2. Another level up. And and typically what's going to be the offense is like when people lie to you, they slander you. Like, I heard that you've been saying this about me, or, that's probably the next level. Can you think of something else that's kind of beyond that? Or not beyond that. I'm sorry. What's in that category? I mean, like something that's kind of in that category.
Like you stole from me, lying to me, stole from me, like you took advantage of me.
Whatever it is.
Misrepresented.
Misrepresented. You got angry, you lost your cool.
Yeah, I'd say that would fit in there.
What do you do there? How do you handle that?
Well, I would say very, very similar.
Exact same way.
Thing, and I think
it's the exact same way.
Just saying, hey, I go before the Lord, then go to them, establish the facts, see where it goes.
Yeah. And just even having a posture of like, I've already forgiven you in my heart, and I want to be reconciled with you, and you make it easy to reconcile with you. And I just want to get on the same page.
Yep.
And, but see, so often the way that it works, just by way of observation, is okay, when I'm offended by you, you skip going to the Lord and you go to other people, you start venting your frustration. Number two, or then what you do is you show up and you're like hot.
Yeah.
You're hot.
You're ready to fight.
You may not even show up at all, but like if you do show up, like you're like so bothered by it that it's just going to go really bad.
Yep.
It's going to go really bad. And I think that's just not the Christian response here.
No.
In the life of the church. And God wants us to be righteous even when we are offended by people. Yep. So you do the same thing. So it's almost like that system or that way of thinking. Go to the Lord and go to the person. Go to the Lord. Go to the person. Go to the Lord. Go to the person. That would save so much pain.
Yeah. And something that you said, I don't know if this was an original Lou Cookie thought or if this was within your study, but the idea of forgiveness being like the letting go of any expectation of repayment of the debt, and a lot of times it's a relational debt that is created when there's brokenness in a relationship. But that forgiveness is really the release of that debt, and so if I found that people are like, I forgive you for this, but like I need this, and this. I'm like, but that doesn't feel like forgiveness necessarily. Because it's like, well, no, I'll forgive you when the debt is repaid. But like genuine forgiveness is a release of the debt, just like the gospel teaches. It's like the debt that we owe, like our confession to the Lord is never like 100% in its fullness. Like, I don't think that as you mature in the faith, you begin to understand like the gravity of your sin more and more and more and more. But our confession is never going to like meet the fullness of like the standard of God's actual holiness and how we've offended him. But like, we are still reconciled, like fully and completely reconciled. And so when it comes to like other people and the forgiveness that we're given, it's like, there's nothing that the Lord's like, I'll forgive you if you do this, that, and the other. There's all sorts of faith systems built around that. But, that release of the debt that you feel like that person owes you.
Because forgiveness is a part of reconciliation. So it's needed for it, but you can forgive before you ever are like that person. Or let me put it this way: forgiveness and confession, like admission, those things are necessary for reconciliation. But you can forgive a person before they ever confess or admit anything to you.
Totally.
Or if they ever do.
Totally.
And so, forgiveness is in one sense something that can happen isolated from ever really talking to the person. And it should. I mean, Lord willing, we're going to that person that's hurt us. We're trying to mend the relationship because there are different levels here, like you're saying. And there's some things that just like selling your brother into slavery. That's like just automatically breaks the relationship.
It's broken.
Versus like,
or you cheat on your spouse.
Cheat on your spouse, or you
betray someone,
or you punch your spouse. Or
whatever,
or your kid. Or there's things that immediately escalate to like where the relationship is there's a real brokenness to it, and there's many things which many of us deal with, which are going to be like, you said something to me and it felt
inappropriate,
or you said it the wrong way or whatever. So there's those different levels, and as you climb the ladder of severity, you're going to find that there's more brokenness in the relationship, and forgiveness is going to be generally harder at times, and that reconciliation process is going to be harder, which I do think is a piece of this. Is reconciliation oftentimes is a process. It's not it's not just a thing that happens like one and done. It can be. Many times it can be. But there are times when it's going to be more of a process that you're working through.
And a lot of times when there's the brokenness in the relationship, part of the reconciling process, especially in situations where there's like abuse or adultery or anything like that, reconciliation happens over time as trust is earned again over time. Like that's a reality. And in some cases, it's like you can forgive. It's like, you're right. I did say that thing. I was mad at you, and so I said this stupid thing to this other person about you. And
Or
so
made this comment.
Made this comment. So like, I'm sorry about that. And like, you can, it's like, it's like, okay, yeah, you own it. Like trust can be restored. But then it's like, there are situations where that trust does have to be rebuilt and re-earned.
Yeah.
And so reconciliation it can be a long process, but it's a process worth pursuing.
Totally. Totally. That's right.
Yeah.
And now I think, you brought up, we were kind of just prepping for this, Dan, you brought up the question of, okay, so how does confession and mission work here in the reconciliation process? And so, because if someone sins against me and I go to them and they, or we talk about it and they don't, to what degree do they have to admit what they did?
Yeah. So that's it. There are two stunning details about the story of Joseph that I can't shake. I can't shake them. First, stunning detail number one is that Joseph forgives and heals. I don't mean heals entirely, but he forgives and he heals before he's reconciled to his brothers.
Totally.
Mm-hmm. So he is sinned against. I don't know what level that is, but that's the top level.
That seems like top tier.
Top tier sinned against. And
It's not how God has been sinned against, but it's
I mean, humanly speaking,
is about as bad as it's going to get.
Betrayed by your brothers. Your brothers lie about you dying. Your dad thinks you're dead. Mm-hmm. Potiphar's wife falsely accuses you. You're forgotten about in prison. Mm-hmm. This is it's horrible. That's top shelf, top level, top tier, whatever phrase you want to use. You're going to be sinned against. Or I'm sorry, it's going to be hard for you to be sinned against more than Joseph was sinned against. Yeah. He's the top level. And when you read the story, you see that he's not bitter. Is there one bitter word from Joseph in the story?
No.
So and this is stunning to me, stunning. Pharaoh thinks highly of these guys. Mm-hmm. You know what that means?
It means Joseph never talked poorly about
Joseph never told Pharaoh.
That's a good point.
About what happened.
Yeah.
So I say that because he forgives. The stunning detail that I can't shake is that he forgives and he heals before he's reconciled. Mm-hmm. Now, what does that mean? It means he's not coming to his brothers dependent on them.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Now, what's dependent on his brothers for reconciliation is that there's going to have to be some sort of softening change. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But he's not like, I can heal when you do the right thing. It's not that. He's already been healed by the grace of God. He's forgiven. So what that means is that he's positioned as the offended party to act for the good of his brothers. Mm-hmm. And I think that is a glorious picture of what Christ does for us. Yeah. Mm-hmm. He has forgiven us and he's changed us and he's made us new. And so what that means is that, so often in broken relationships, and when you're really sinned against, it's that the broken relationship, it just fractures you so deeply that in the relationship reconciliation process, what ends up happening is that you become dependent on the person getting the confession of their guilt perfectly. Yeah. You need to understand every way that you hurt me before I can forgive you. Yeah. And it's in a perfect world. If you sin against someone, you should humble yourself and you should confess what you did to them. Yeah, exactly. But it's just not going to work out that way.
Yeah, right. Most of the time, that's not happening.
Usually it's not happening. So we should be the best, Christians should be the best confessors of sin on the planet, which would make us the easiest people in the world to reconcile with. Mm-hmm. But Joseph is he forgives and he's healed before he reconciles with his brothers. That's number one. It's just stunning to me. Number two is that in these stories of reconciliation, like Jacob and Esau, what Jacob did to Esau, his brother, was bad. That's bad. Really bad. And when they reconcile, Jacob does not confess his sin to Esau, but they reconcile. And Joseph's brothers, I think there is an admission of guilt, like they did something wrong, but
it's not to the same degree of what
it does not match what they did. There's certainly. It does not match. And I think in the story, the way that it plays out is their guilt is so overwhelming that Joseph actually becomes sympathetic towards his brothers. Mm-hmm. it's like, he's like, this is terrible what you did. In the crushing weight of what they did to him, Joseph is now in the position to comfort his brothers.
Yeah.
Which I think is just so crazy. This is what it means. It means that usually when reconciliation happens, we're not going to get perfect confessions from people. And we should be so gracious. You know, just like the way God the Father is towards the prodigal son. You know, the prodigal, he's eating with the pigs, and he says, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to go back and I'm going to beg. I'm going to beg for
Forgiveness.
Beg for forgiveness, and maybe I can be a slave in your home. But the moment the father sees the son turn back to him, he runs after him and he restores him. Now, real quick, that should be our heart. We also need to apply wisdom.
Yes.
If you run a business and your accountant steals from you,
you don't just hire him.
you can forgive him, and you can actually reconcile with him.
You don't necessarily have to trust him.
But you don't necessarily have to hire him to be your accountant for your business anymore.
That's right.
So, so I think God can restore relationships, and he does.
And I think, like, to your point with Joseph and his brothers, like, he wasn't dependent on a perfect confession from them in order to forgive them or for the reconciliation to happen.
Totally.
Which is important, because I think that can be something, when we look at reconciliation, if we're not careful, we can kind of weaponize it in a sense of, I'm not going to actually forgive you or reconcile with you unless you perfectly confess what you
Everything you did that was wrong.
And that's just not like, you know, Derek, you mentioned this earlier, but like, we don't even do that with the Lord.
We don't do that with
like, God's expectation of us isn't to do that. His expectation is that we come before him and recognize we have sinned against him. But do we confess every single sin we don't even know every sin we've committed against the Lord.
No. Martin Luther tried, and it drove him crazy. Drove him crazy, and it drove the people around him crazy.
So I think those are really helpful observations and points when we're thinking about reconciliation, is that, man, it's like, if we go to somebody and they've sinned against us and say, you're right, I'm really sorry I did that, in a sense that we should give grace, and that should be, we should say, okay, you know, we accept you, and obviously our forgiveness is not dependent, and we
pursue reconciliation.
Well, I think even to just real quick is that sometimes, you know, it's the person who has sinned against the other person, and they know their brother's offended.
Yeah.
And, you know, Jesus says in Matthew 5, you should go pursue them.
Yes.
Totally.
And so I do think sometimes, as the offended person, maybe the person who did something does not know, they're oblivious to it, and so we should go pursue as the offended person. But I think there's plenty of situations where I know I've said something and I can tell it to hurt my wife or my kids or somebody else. I'm like, I have a responsibility to go pursue them.
That's right.
And to be humble and confess to them what I'd said, what I did, whatever that was wrong of me. Would you please forgive me? And so I think that's a reality much of the time for many of us. Like, I know what I said was, that was not good. That was good.
Totally.
And so I need to go to them.
Yep.
So I think in the ideal world, you know, it's like we forgive, they confess, we're reconciled, but there is a reality where oftentimes life doesn't work out perfectly. It's an ideal. And so
we got to look to the gospel as our picture of reconciliation.